If I had zero income, if I had no income at all, then I would have a negative taxable income of minus $3,000. I would be entitled to receive half of that, or $1,500. And in this way, this program would say nobody in the country, no family of four in the country, shall have a smaller amount than $1,500 available for it for its purposes of consumption. That would be the negative income tax. Now, the point that I think it's urgent to stress to avoid misunderstanding is that while there's a guaranteed income, a minimum guarantee of $1,500, that income is not equal to the break-even point, the point at which you pay no taxes of $3,000. This difference is essential because there are other proposals which have been made under the name of guaranteed income, which would say, let's set a level like $3,000. Then if a family has less than that, we'll make up the difference. Now, the trouble with such gap-filling programs, with a program which says if you have less than $3,000, we'll make up the difference, is that you destroy the incentive of people to earn anything. Why should anybody go to work and earn anything? Now, under a 50% rate, you also weaken their incentive. And if you were starting from scratch, you might be adding to the problem. But you're not starting from scratch. Our present welfare programs, our present direct relief, and aid to dependent children programs, in effect, have a 100% tax rate. Because if a family on relief, if, let's say, a woman, as currently is mostly the case under aid to dependent children, if a woman who is on relief takes a job and earns $100, and she's honest, she is required to have her relief payment reduced by $100. That's one of the ways in which we've been producing poor people.
As you guys can see, that is the godfather of conservative economics, Milton Friedman, who's also the mentor of the great Thomas Sowell, straight out the Chicago School of Economics. Reagan's economic advisor, advocating for what we call a negative income tax, which is similar to a universal basic income. Okay. And guys, I have big problems with the welfare state. I'm almost a libertarian on this issue. I actually want to get rid of it, right? Altogether, if I could have it my way, right? And I would probably replace it with something kind of like what Milton Friedman, the godfather of conservative economics, aka supply side economics, advocated for. Okay. And this is why I think stories, right, and programs regarding universal basic income are interesting. They're interesting, and I think that Republicans and conservatives are missing out on a big opportunity to revolutionize welfare and to stop disincentivizing work by thinking outside of the box and like the old school conservative economics back before the Reagan era. Okay, now Oakland is the next city to try the universal basic income experiment, in which Oakland is going to give low-income residents $500 a month, no strings attached. Except I don't like how they're actually distributing this, because the people they're selecting to actually try out this experiment based off race, and I hate that, right? I hate that for obvious reasons. So let's find out what they're doing here. The mayor of Oakland, California, on Tuesday announced a privately funded program that will give low-income families of color in the city $500 per month with no rules on how they can spend it. The program is the latest experiment with a, quote, guaranteed income. The idea that giving low-income individuals a regular monthly stipend helps ease the stresses of poverty and results in better health and upward economic mobility. This idea isn't new, but it's having a revival across the U.S. after some mayors launched smaller scale pilot programs across the country in a coordinated campaign to convince Congress to adopt a national guaranteed income program. The first program launched in 2019 in Stockton, California, led by former Mayor Michael Tubbs. Tubbs, who later founded the group Mayors for a Guaranteed Income, expects 6 other cities to launch similar programs by this summer. An analysis of the first year of the Stockton Economic Empowerment demonstration found that compared to a control group, residents who received regular payments experienced less income volatility, secured more full-time employment, were better parents and partners, and even saw improvements in their health and overall well-being. Now that's interesting, guys, because there are some people, right, who obviously haven't watched this video of Milton Friedman, the godfather of conservative economics, who basically just explained to you guys how our current welfare system, the way it's built, disincentivizes work, right? So the current way our welfare system is built is that the more you work, the less you get, right? There's this cliff hanging effect, right? In which, once you make a certain amount of money, you receive less benefits. And like Thomas Sowell says, guys, everything is a trade-off. There are no solutions. They're just trade-offs in life. And a lot of people make the trade-off of basically receiving welfare, right, instead of working more. That is what makes people dependent. However, this study here, in terms of what happened in Stockton, California, this experiment shows the opposite. People did not actually quit their jobs and become drug addicts. Again, like some people say that would happen under this. They didn't do that. They actually got more jobs and were better parents and partners, and also saw improvements in their health and overall well-being. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it would apply in another scenario or another city, which is why I think that these experiments that are happening across the country with universal basic income are interesting. And it supports the idea that the reason why our current welfare system sucks is because the more that you make, the more that you work, the less that you get, right? Now, under universal basic income, the more that you work, the more that you get, okay? And, these early results indicate that this would not disincentivize work, despite what a lot of people think, okay? Because me personally, I think that the biggest problem with our welfare system is that it disincentivizes work, which is why I would like to demolish it. And I would like to make it more efficient, right? I would like the people to control what they do with their tax dollars instead of the government. I want smaller government. In my opinion, this is the best way to do it. So let's read a little bit more here. Oakland Mayor Libby Scaff said of her city's new initiative, "We have designed this demonstration project to add to the body of evidence and to begin this relentless campaign to adopt a guaranteed income federally." The Oakland resident families, a program, has so far raised $6.75 million from private donors, including Blue Meridian Partners, a national philanthropy group. To be eligible, individuals must have at least one child under the age of 18 and an income that is at or below 50% of the area median income, about $59,000 per year for a family of 3. Half of the spots are reserved for people who earn less than 138% of the federal poverty level, or about $30,000 per year for a family of 3. Participants will be randomly selected from a pool of applicants who meet the eligibility requirement. And unfortunately, guys, this is going to just black people only in Oakland. They turned what could be a good experiment into a woke experiment, right? And it's almost like, oh, is there no poor white people who could benefit from this experiment? Why does it have to be just black people, right? And I think what happens is that when they do these type of experiments and then they just only include black people and they make it something woke, it automatically turns a lot of people off, okay? It turns a lot of people off. So I really hate the fact that they're doing this, because I think they can collect more data and better data if they actually, let everybody get it and gave it to as many people as they could, right, of different diverse backgrounds to see the effects. Okay, that's just my opinion, right? That's like a basic data analysis thing. You want to have a diverse pool as possible. But an interesting tidbit here that you guys would find interesting is that the idea of guaranteed income dates to the 18th century. The U.S. government experimented with free money in the 1960s and 1970s when Republicans Donald Rumsfeld, later a defense secretary, and Dick Cheney, the future vice president, oversaw 4 programs across the country during the Nixon administration. Nixon also established the EPA too. Wow. Back when Republicans actually had ideas. Wow, who knew? Analysis of the program found that money did not stop people from working, leading Nixon to recommend expanding the program, but the proposal never made it through Congress. Again, so much for the idea that people are going to quit working their jobs and do drugs. Just saying. And decades later, progressive mayors and other opponents of basic income have revived efforts to bring the concept into the mainstream. Again, Republicans and conservatives letting Democrats and progressives steal our thunder. It's a damn shame. All right, guys. So, I like these experiments. Why? Because we can see the actual effects of this without having to actually implement the program at the national level. Okay, what I don't like is the fact that this is going to just black people. Okay, because there are white people who are poor who could benefit from something like this. Okay, and the problem is that, you know, when you propose stuff like this, you have experiments like this, and you just exclude a whole race of people, or you make it for a certain race, you automatically make people have a negative perception of what you're doing, right? Even if it's being done in a way that is for a good cause and to experiment, right? And I think that this is one of those things that a lot of people are just going to be turned off from, right? Because they have misconceptions because of the race thing, and then also because they have misconceptions led by political rhetoric that really is not grounded in any truth. But the thing is that, you know, I think that this idea is very, very interesting. Okay. And Milton Friedman was the one that actually convinced me that this is something that would be worth experimenting with. And again, as the godfather of conservative economics, supply side economics, you know, I think this is something that, again, conservatives are truly missing out on because it is a conservative idea. Again, it's a lot more government than our current welfare system. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the taxpayer gets to choose what he wants to do with his or her tax dollars, while also trying to mitigate the negative externalities of poverty. And I also think that this would greatly benefit rural America as well. And it would be interesting to see an experiment like this happen in rural America to see if it can help revive small business in rural America, because people have more money to spend. Now, a lot of you guys are probably thinking like, okay, I feel like this is a handout. I'm not for government handouts. Well, I'm not for government handouts either. But at the end of the day, the government is going to take your tax money. And if they're going to take your tax money, I would rather them give it back to me. Right? That's what I would rather have. Okay? And also on top of that, corporations get handouts every single day. Farmers' incomes are subsidized 40%, guys. So basically, corporations and big business and basically everybody else benefits from government handouts except the people, right? If the people get government handouts, then that's socialism. That's what they tell you. But if corporations get handouts, then that's just good capitalism. With something like universal basic income, if everybody gets it, then there's no stigma of it just being for the poor. And also on top of that, there is this idea that everybody has the same floor, right? Where, you know, even if you lose your job, right, you don't need unemployment. You don't have to apply for unemployment. Again, less government. You don't need extra government aid, right? It also gives people more flexibility and more choice. This is why, you know, a lot of libertarians like this idea too, right? A lot of libertarians like it because of choice and freedom at the end of the day. It prevents coercion from big corporations who tend to take advantage of people when it comes to work, right? It makes it a lot easier for people to move around in employment. It could potentially level the playing field between basically the employer and the employee. There's less need for regulations, okay? Because people can just leave their jobs a lot easier. If they have terrible working conditions, or they feel like, you know, they're not getting paid enough, or they're having some issues at work or anything like that, right? Which again, less government, right? Because I think most reasonable people agree that there has to be a social safety net. It's just about how much of the social safety net do you want, right? And what is it? What that actually entails. And in my opinion, I think that this will be something that will be able to significantly benefit the middle class more than anything, and will be something that I think would get rid of the need for large government programs. Like, you don't need free college. You can use your money for that. You can use your money for healthcare. You can use your money for childcare. You can use your money for tithes and offerings, right? You can even give it to the church. You can give it to charity. Again, I just think it gives people a lot more freedom and choice, okay? And it will also promote entrepreneurship. Now, some people say, well, why would people work? Well, nobody can live off $1,000 a month, $500. Nobody can live off of that. It's not meant for people to be able to live off of, because obviously you want people to work. That's the whole part about incentivizing work. You can't live off of it, okay? So I don't buy the argument that people would not work, right? Again, in that experiment, you saw that people actually did work more, okay? So the thing is that people tend to have these ideas where they believe that something's going to happen based off common sense, but it hasn't actually been tested in reality. And sometimes there's a difference between what you think that's going to happen based off your common sense versus the actual reality. Our current welfare program is not the same as what a universal basic income would be. And that's why I think the idea is so interesting, because it gets rid of that stigma associated with just poor people getting something. Okay. And I also think that's ultimately less government. And I don't know why conservatives and Republicans have not embraced this idea, because to me, this is the answer to big government. This is the answer to freedom. Okay. And, again, it's one of those things that I think, the progressive version of this, the progressives want to add this on top of everything else. That's not what I want. I want to get rid of everything else and just replace it with this. That would be my ideal system, right? If I could have everything that I wanted. I think Milton Friedman's idea is genius. So, hey, guys. I understand that certain conservatives are apprehensive about this. Our current welfare system definitely does not incentivize work. It is definitely, made it harder for people. It doesn't incentivize marriage. It doesn't incentivize the nuclear family. But I think that's not the same thing as UBI. And I think it will be interesting to, at the very least, let's see what happens with these experiments before coming to a conclusion about what the outcome will be. So I'm interested to see what will happen. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.